Greetings. I am Dr. Noni Davis coming to you from St. C Academy here in Durham, North Carolina. And I am a legacy owner. I give thanks for my dad, the late William Edward Davis Sr., and my mother, Sylvia Davis, who I co founded St. C Academy with them 30 years ago. And so I'm going to continue on my June, what's going on in June historically, historical celebrations. And we all know Juneteenth is coming up. The reason why we're focusing on June is because this is my birthday month. And so I have found several very interesting facts that happened. Last week it was African Americans who were, well, not just African Americans, but world record setters in 1960 for the Olympics. And I didn't know that Wilma Rudolph and Muhammad Ali fought were both participants in the 1960 Olympics, and both of them held world records. And so did a young man from Ethiopia who won the world record in long in what is it? The, oh my God, my words be just leaving my head, but the marathon. And so, so this week, like I said, I'm going to focus on the event Juneteenth and what I wanted to cover because there's a lot of history. I mean, even though we celebrate it, I still am not always familiar with all. I was not familiar with all of the details, and even the situation with the Emancipation Proclamation. So in 1863, on January 1st, 1863, we all know that President Abraham Lincoln, was issued the Emancipation Proclamation. But I was like, well, so what made him decide to do it at this point? And there's always been, well, he really didn't want to free the slaves, and he really was just ambivalent about it. But this war literally forced him to make a decision, and that was because before he was elected, state secession from the United States had already started. So this was like this little war popped off in 1861 or something like that, 1862, and people they were already seceding before he was elected. So because the Union was broken, the Confederate South Confederate South separated themselves into the Confederacy, and because they are like, look, nobody's going to tell us about slavery. Slavery needed to end. It was becoming an embarrassment to the world, like we are right now. And they're like, it's got to end. And the Confederacy said, mind your business and leave me alone anyway. Um, and then not only did they want to maintain slavery in the South, but they wanted to expand it. You know, we know about the Missouri Compromise and all of these other compromises that were happening. They wanted to have one state become a slave state, and below what is it? The Dixie line, Mason Dixie line, and everything above it would be uh, 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 Union or Free State or whatever. And it was just beginning to become a big mess because American politics has always been foolishness. Anyway, so first of all, let's see. So, oh no, so on September 17th, 1862, Lincoln threatened the Confederate states that if they didn't rejoin the Union and pledge their allegiance to the United States, then all of their enslaved population would be declared free. Now, first of all, like I said, the Confederates had already said, y'all can kick rocks. I'm out of here. I'm not participating. So it was very interesting that, he was like, well, you can't have no slavery there. We're gone. We're not under your control anymore. So I thought that was always interesting. And even when I read it in the text, um, it was said that he really didn't have any authority to do that because they were already gone. Even though they were gone illegally, once they said we're out, he didn't have any control over them. And so, uh, but he said, okay. Anyway, the Confederates said, hell to the no. and let's rumble. So they said, if you want to fight, we go fight over this. And so Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. And he had decided that all of the slaves that were in the South would be free. Now, mind you, I think DC still had slavery. So he did not. So in some of the states that were like border states, he didn't free the Africans that were in those border states. He only freed Africans that were in the South. And some of the border states, they remained a part of the Union, but they also had a lot of division. Some people in there, in those states, were fighting for the Union, and some were fighting for the Confederacy. So it was still a big mess. So Lincoln really had no authority over the Confederates, but the proclamation gave the U.S. military authority to also cross into southern territories to fight. All right. So this declaration also, one of the things that the South thought was going to happen. Well, we got these deals with Europe. We selling them cotton, right? So they're gonna come and help us. But Europe couldn't do it. First of all, they said European intervention was impossible because one, the Confederate Navy couldn't. This is only 11 states compared to 20 states in that were part of the Union. You got 11 states here, 20 over here, and then the five that were not sure what they were going to do, border states. So there were 25 to 11. So the Confederacy just did not have the military power to go past the Union blockade. And remember, I talked to about black soldiers who was involved in sinking one of their ironclad ships, warships, a few weeks ago, and that also happened in June. So the Confederate Navy could not gain access to Europe because this Union blockade was doing their thing. Two, it made it impossible for them to deliver this cotton to Europe. Three, the British could not afford to get into any more wars with the United States. This is 1863. They had already gotten it behind whooped in 1770s with the Revolutionary War, and they just like, we don't have any appetite for that. We're not going back into that. Number four, France was like, uh, a war with Prussia, and then they were having a war in Mexico. Remember, this war in Mexico was France wanted to re-enslave people, and Mexico was like, "We're freeing people, we're freeing the Africans," and so that was going on too. And so they couldn't help the South because they were already distracted with, I think Napoleon the Third was doing some crazy stuff up there, and then you had Napoleon was doing his crazy stuff, and then you had uh, Mexico was fighting them, and they were, I think that was their biracial his Afro Latino president down there in Mexico was giving France a hard time. Then the fourth thing was, and that had to do with the Monroe Doctrine. Now, I knew about the Monroe Doctrine, but I did not understand, or I had to familiarize myself with it. So it was written in 1823, and it stated, and it's so funny, that the Europeans, um, cousins, could no longer interfere with the European colonies of the North America and South America. They say, y'all mind your business, we got this, and you stay out. And if you uh, get involved with any conflicts we have, we will consider that a threat. Europeans be fighting each other. They just love to fight. Anyway, so then the third thing was the Confederate was incapable of gaining the strength of the USA. Like I said, there was only 11 states, and these were And the United States, USA, the Union at that point still had 20 free states and 5 border states that were committed, still part of the Union. So they ain't had the money, they ain't had the power to do all this foolishness. So Abraham Lincoln was still conflicted. He was like, "Well, I really don't want to attack my cousins, and I really am not that eager to end slavery. What am I going to do with these black people?" He was pro sending them back to Africa, and maybe sending them to the Caribbean, just get black people out of here. And then he was not interested in equality. He wasn't interested in none of that stuff. He just said, well, it was a big headache for him. Just free black people. Anyway, people are creating problems that should never have existed in the first place. So he was like waiting for an opportunity to justify the Emancipation Proclamation. So the battle, he couldn't do anything until the Union won the Battle of Antietam. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Antietam is what I think it is, but it's Antietam. And that was on September 17th, 1862. So remember, this is September, so October, November, December, January 1st. So General Robert E. Lee, who I've talked to you about before, as well as General George B. McClellan, who was involved in that Black Dispatch, all these black spies that were part of the Union spy network. They had a battle in Sharpsburg, Maryland, and 23,000 Confederate and Union soldiers together died in this war. And they said it was the bloodiest war uh, during this battle. It was the bloodiest one during the Civil War. But the North won. And after this victory, Lincoln said, "Okay, now that I've got this down, now I can go ahead and issue this Emancipation Proclamation." So that's how it came about. It was he needed to wait for some kind of major event to happen in his favor before he issued this Emancipation Proclamation. And so after this victory, he felt he had confident enough to invoke the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. However, that proclamation, like I said, only applied to the states that were in the Confederacy, which were South Carolina, North Carolina, Alabama, Virginia, Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, and Arkansas. So those were the 11 states. And then, of course, the free states were Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Kansas, California, and Oregon. And those border states that were still like, we don't know, and had all these people who had even in their states, they had a lot of conflict. Because some people wanted to be join the Confederacy, and some wanted to join the Union. They couldn't make a decision, so that would be Delaware, Maryland, Kentucky, Missouri, West Virginia. They were um, divided on what to do, and so they stayed in the Union, but it was a mess. So now we're on Juneteenth. So what I didn't know was that some of the first celebrations, I didn't know that they had what did they call it? Freedom's Eve. This is the first time I've heard of Freedom's Eve. Freedom's Eve was when all of the freed Africans and freed and enslaved Africans all over the United States, when they heard about this Emancipation Proclamation being signed on January 1st, they had like a watch night. And the night before, you know how we have like watch night for Easter, the night before Easter, we do that too. And then people do this on New Year's Eve anyway. So they had a Freedom's Eve, and people gathered in their churches and they prayed and all of that. And so at midnight, um, they celebrated the Emancipation Proclamation. when they and waited for midnight when enslaved Africans in the Confederate States were deemed free according to this proclamation. So, however, this was the 1860s, and there were no phones, no internet, no mass communication. So even though this was 1863 when this proclamation was instituted, it took 535 days because you got January 1st, 1863, January 1st, 1864, and it was June 19th, 1865 before the entire South was covered. So what happened is you had these black Union soldiers. They were going from state to state to read this Emancipation Proclamation to African Americans. And so, they started, let's see, like in South Carolina, and then they went in North Carolina and South Carolina, and then they went to Georgia, and they went to, let's see, what we say all of the states were. They had to go to Alabama and Mississippi, Tennessee, Florida, and Arkansas. Texas was the last place they arrived. And when they got there, I can't remember the white dude's name, but they read they got to Galveston Bay, which is a remote area. I think it's like an island off the coast of Texas. When they got there to Galveston Bay, Texas, that's when the June 19th, that's the date that they arrived there. So, like I said, it was 535 days before uh, they heard or learned about the Emancipation Proclamation. And so, uh, let's see. So what happened is that they informed black folks that they were free, which also led many of our ancestors to join the Union and become spies to ensure that the Confederacy lost. So if you just imagine South Carolina, you came to South Carolina, they heard about Emancipation Proclamation. They're like, wait, okay. And then North Carolina, all the way down to, I mean, these Virginia, all the way from the north to the south, as I was speaking of in May, you had these black dispatches and all of this war, this information about, spies trading information about what the Confederacy was doing. This is why they were doing it, because as soon as they found out about the Emancipation Proclamation in the South, they started moving to help ensure that this Emancipation Proclamation went forward. Do not underestimate black people. So, the news of the Emancipation Proclamation arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas on June 19th, 1865, and came to be known as Juneteenth. June plus the 19th will put together Juneteenth. Now, what followed the announcement of the emancipation was an immediate migration. So the Africans that were down there in Texas, they were like, we got to go find our families. So they started traveling. This was everybody. As soon as they got free, not only did they become spies, but they also started looking for their families. African Americans were determined to locate their family members and seek opportunities to establish themselves and take full advantage of their newfound freedom, right? Mind you, this was before slavery was abolished. And so slavery was finally abolished on December 6th, 1865 by the 13th Amendment. So they still, from January 1st, 1863, June 1865, they still had another 6 months almost before, 6 months before the 13th Amendment solidified their freedom. Now, as these Africans moved out of Texas, they carried the celebration of Juneteenth. Juneteenth became Freedom Day, it became Emancipation Day. It had a lot of different names. In 1872, though Africans started celebrating, I mean, they were really having big time celebrations of this thing. But there was still a lot of segregation. African Americans couldn't celebrate, I mean, be a part of any public spaces that Europeans were in, European Americans were. So in Texas, one of the leaders of that community created the Emancipation Park. It was 10 acres of land that they bought under the a guise of, I think, of the Freedmen's Bureau, and they turned it into a park where people could celebrate. And then let's see, in the 1890s, you had Jubilee Day, as was also called, and that became an annual celebration, drawing significant numbers of people. And that was celebrated in Booker T. Washington Park, Louisiana, Richmond, Virginia. You had Emancipation Day, which I was talking about, became an official holiday in Texas on June 20th, 1938, by the governor James V. Allred. And then you had another wave of African Americans leaving the South. There was the Great Migration, so 1940s through 1970s. And as they moved out, they moved north and they moved west. And so you had Juneteenth celebrations in Los Angeles and Oakland and Seattle and Illinois, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Washington. And so um, it's interesting. I did not learn about Juneteenth when I was in school. I didn't learn about Juneteenth until I became an elder. I mean, older, well, an adult rather. And so it apparently it wasn't. It may have been in North Carolina, but we did Bembe Festival, so I didn't know. And Bembe Festival is in May, and that I remember my dad made sure we did. But even like Jonkanu, I did not know about know about Juneteenth until much later. And and it said that and what my research is that Juneteenth would have these ebbs and flow. It would become really popular, and then it would recede, popularity recede, and then it would come back. So the popularity has been, but it was never extinguished. It said it reemerged in 1979 when Al Edwards, a Houston Democrat, sponsored legislation to make Juneteenth a paid Texas state holiday, and I didn't know that. And then also mass media, a lot of there were episodes with these black TV shows. I think they said Blackish, and they said Juneteenth was a 1965 short story under Ralph Ellison. Museums began to have exhibits in the 70s with historical references to Juneteenth, and historical artifacts about it, exhibits. Um, and then let's see. I'm trying to think. Where did I see that after they did this? Juneteenth. Oh, was added to his calendar. Apple. Oh yeah, Apple posted Juneteenth to its calendars in 2018. Um, and then it was mentioned. Oh, it is true. Juneteenth was also mentioned in episodes of Blackish and Atlanta. Different musical groups started including references to it, like the Roots musical group, and different groups started singing songs about it. And so it it gradually gained more momentum. It started being advertised. I know now you can see it on television. You got on Instagram. You got a lot of people who are making T-shirts. They're having Juneteenth celebrations out at Stagville. We have a bunch of Juneteenth events coming up here in Durham. Let's see. I was going to show some of the historical stuff that I found. Um, Pictures of. Oh wait, no, 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 of Juneteenth. Oh well. Let's see. Can I? Can't. I don't think I can size this. Wait a minute. Can I? Oh nope. Um. Well, that's a picture. So that's the how Juneteenth became a U.S. holiday. Uh, and this is 1865. And then I had some other pictures. Wait, where are they? Okay. This is a Juneteenth celebration. I thought that was cool. This one was in attended. This was, I mean, did beautiful pictures of black people in a parade. Let's see, what else did I have here. Um, this is a picture of it in 1900s. I mean, it's really cool. These black people were not playing. And one of these pictures was of folks in Richmond, and I was like, look at this crowd. Uh, let's see. Oh, I don't know what that picture is. Anyway, let's see. Oh, this is Africans in Miami, Florida, celebrating Juneteenth. Joy and freedom. Joy of freedom. Just imagine. Uh, there was a Juneteenth march that I now see. Oh, these are the soldiers. Oh no, I did something wrong here. No, what happened? Oh, here it is. It won't let me say. Oh wait, there it is. Oh, this is a. I can't do it that way. So here's Juneteenth. These are the soldiers, examples of the black colored soldiers, yeah, colored Union soldiers arriving in Galveston. And so that was awesome. But they have parades. They were so many things. And then, oh, I wanted to show a picture of, like, I have a picture of, well, I painted one, but I don't have it in here, of the flag, Juneteenth. So a lot of people get confused with Juneteenth because they'll have the red, black, and green flag, where in the Juneteenth, they have the um, Juneteenth flag. Let me see. Come on now. Oh, where is it? Why won't you act right? Allow a Juneteenth flag. And I'm gonna have my kids make a Juneteenth flag tomorrow. This is the one, the Juneteenth flag. So it's got the star. I think the star in the middle refers to Texas, but it's the freedom flag, and so it's the red, white, and blue. This one is it's not the Juneteenth flag. It does not have red, black, and green in it. Uh, but this this one was created by, let's see, is a deeply symbolic emblem representing the emancipation of enslaved Africans. There's a flag meaning. It was, oh, this one was invented in 1997. The central star is the Lone Star State, which is Texas. The starburst, it represents freedom, like a supernova. The curved arc here, the line here, the red curved arc, span across the flag, represents a new horizon, hope, and a promise of a better future. And then, of course, the red, white, and blue. That's what those are the colors of the American flag. And so, um, I made painted that flag, and I'm going to let my kids paint it and learn the meaning of it as well. So Juneteenth is now a federal holiday, thanks to Mama Opal Lee, who was an activist just determined to get Juneteenth as a federal holiday. Um, so Joe Biden on June 17, 2021, signed the bill making Juneteenth a federal holiday. Now, of course, um, the dumpster fire in the White House, I ain't calling his name, but the dumpster fire in the White House decided that he was going to get rid of all the federal holidays that were related to Black people, and even honoring women. I mean, just and other people, Hispanic people as well. So, he removed, there were special events that happened, I think, at the major parks, or maybe there's free admission or something like that on those days, Dr. King's birthday and all of that. And so he decided to get rid of him, like we care what he does. Anyway, this Friday, June 19th, is Juneteenth, and I pray that you will have a great day celebrating, maybe having some red, white, and blue cake, and maybe do some artwork and teach your children the meaning of it, and make sure you attend the events that are happening on that day and on over the weekend. And this is our Emancipation Day. This is our Freedom Day. This is our Jubilee Day. There are so many words that we're associated with. But anyway, happy Juneteenth. Ashe, ashe, oh.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
We all want our kids to grow up safe and healthy, so we show them how. And we tell them with honest conversations that let them know what we expect. Not just one time, but every chance we get. That's especially important when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. Kids not only need to know the dangers and how to avoid them, they need to hear it often from you. And when it comes to pain medications, opioids, they need to know that they should never be taken without a prescription and never shared with friends or family. It's dangerous and illegal. So talk with your kids and guide them through the challenges of growing up safe and healthy. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
So talk, they hear you. You can do it if you try.
They were never supposed to win. In a system built to keep black families landless, one decision changed everything. Bitter Ground's Inheritance tells the true story of heirs who fought through Jim Crow, courts, challenges, and silence to claim land, wealth, and legacy. Told by descendant Captain Newborn, this is more than a story, it's a rare victory. A must-read that exposes America's hidden past. Get your copy today.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I walk into the sound of drums.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I know my mom.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I can play the drum.
I'm a St. Cia student. Of course I can work with my hands.
I'm a St. Cia student.